We are stoked.
I'm a terrible sore loser. I don't follow the rules.
All the bearded guys seem to lie. Yeah.
There are rumors galore.
I am so up and down on my emotions right now.
Retain salary.
Okay. Where there is smoke, there is always fire, etc., etc., etc.
You don't do it.
Been there, done that.
And we'll get into it later.
They know crap about hockey.
Come on. Well, I laugh it off.
I have no issue.
Here's the thing about it. I have nothing.
I'm okay with this deal.
There was no other option.
So now you have nothing.
You already blew it.
Win now, win now.
It paid off.
I will eat my pants.
Hey guys, it's two guys in hockey talk. I'm Pawel the Cat, and I've got my co-host
Revingev, Evan Reynolds. Glad to be back. Season 3, episode 16, with my great co-host Pawel the Cat Zigman. I am stoked, baby. We got so much. We were just lining it up before the show here, and we got so much to talk about. We ain't even going to get close to being done. So let's get at her.
Well, grab your bevy.
Got her.
Enjoy. So, Happy New Year, everyone. We hope you had a great holiday season and break. Some of you were able to catch a little bit. Oh, come on. You can't even open it. If you had a beard, maybe you could. There's been a lot of hockey news happening now over the holidays. The juniors, unfortunately, got canceled, which was kind of disheartening for a lot of the teams. There were some stories that emerged from it. There's rumblings that they may decide to do it in the summer. We'll see if that happens. I don't know. A lot of these kids will be past that age. You know, they're going to start going into college, playing for their respective clubs, things like that, and moving forward. But with the COVID numbers that were there, and with some of the rumblings coming out of Red Deer specifically with a potential wedding that was there, I mean, I'm disheartened that the rules weren't followed to a T, because these kids prep all their lives for these moments to represent their nation on the world stage, and they didn't get a chance to do that. And we've seen some great players over the years from different countries. Patrick Elias comes to mind last year for what he did with Germany with Tim Stutzla. You know, Jordan Eberle a few years back playing well. So it's kind of disheartening. Now,
I was going to say, I could tell your age. You said Jordan Eberle just a few years ago. And Eberle is at the end of his NHL career. But yeah, it feels like yesterday when he pulled off those famous shootouts and stuff.
I think I'm just aging myself for the fact that that's how old I am, knowing how young Eberle was when I was watching him.
But you're right. And hey, so one of the things is there was a joke out about the Canadian team for Connor Bedard, who scored 4 goals in one game and set a historic record. And by the way, at the same age, Connor McDavid had, I think, 5 or 6 points in the whole tournament, and he had 4 points in one game. Now, of course, it wasn't a very good team in the competition, but I must say, already going back, Connor Bedard was barely at 1.2 points. He's now at almost 2 points a game going back to juniors. Obviously, he's got a chip on his shoulder, and he's hoping. Why don't you give us the news that we've heard by Patrick Conaway, our Russian writer, who's now helping us on our Facebook page. He shared some stuff about a possibility from a Russian source about a summer tournament.
Yes, a potential summer tournament that they may want to host in lieu of what was missed, in order for these kids to perform and play out.
What do you think? I'm stoked. Can you imagine? What if someone like Xavier Borgo, the Oilers prospect, actually, because he got injured, and so he was going to be out, so he would be available. There's still guys like the Savoy brothers, remember the one who could be the first overall draft pick, who could now become eligible. Not to mention Owen Power still available. And might I just add this in before I know I'm going off on a little tangent here for a moment. But Owen Power has been selected to the Canadian Olympic team in light of the NHL not going. He's going to have a chance to compete for at least a medal.
100%. I think Buffalo's very happy with that prospect, and that he was able to take some time in college and play and not jump into the NHL this year. you know, so it'll be exciting to see him. And honestly, he dominated and performed. What was it? He had 3 goals or a hat trick in the one period. Like, history has never been done by a defenseman. So
Yeah.
kudos to him. You know, he's a solid player, dynamite, can move the puck, can skate. He's got a body. I'm looking forward to seeing him in the Olympics. Although it's going to be interesting to see what the teams are now that some of the NHL players aren't going. That being said, there are players who are looking for loopholes to seeing how they can go. Someone like Brad Marchand, who's spoken out, or Steven Stamkos, who's really wanting to represent his country on the stage. And, you know, he's done so much in the NHL. It'd be cool to see him win a gold medal for Canada. So that's been pretty cool. But back to the NHL, we've been getting a lot of COVID. Games are being postponed. That 3-week break for the Olympics, it's going to be taken up. A lot of teams are facing it. You can go through a huge list. It's like a novel of the amount of people going through COVID.
It's ridiculous.
I believe only one player, Tyler Bertuzzi out in Detroit, is the only one that's unvaccinated. Otherwise, everyone else is. The problem is, it's all finances. The NHL wants to make money.
I know. Well, and so the issue that I'm struggling just as a hockey fan. Now, if you're out there, I know that you will have a stand on whether you should play pro sports. I know Canada, we have nobody in stands, half the stands full. That's why games are being canceled, because they can't keep making money. That's why they're canceling as many games as they can in Canada. But in the States, they're playing to full stadiums, you know, so that they can still collect. But please, I want people to understand, they have a testing regime because there's so many teams in Canada. If it was all in the States, it'd be a different ballgame. They could be like the NFL and change their policies, because 90% of the people are asymptomatic, meaning they have no symptoms. That's what's frustrating, Pawel.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you know, they're canceling games, but the problem is a lot of the gate-driven revenue that comes from markets, most markets, the big ones, are in Canada. You know, Canada brings a lot of markets with money. So, you know, when you fill the Montreal Canadian Stadium, you know, MTS Center, you're going to get $2 to $2.5 million per game. Wow. That's how much money. Right now, the Toronto Maple Leafs bring in $3 to $3.5 million per game. That is a lot of money. And if you think about all the money and the escrow that players owe, right? You think they don't want fans in the stands. Plus, it makes it exciting. We saw what it was last year, and it was, you know, that crowd noise. It's not the best, but we'll see where it goes. I think you just need to get it in, or here's a radical idea, because I have all of these. You start building all outdoor rinks like you did for the outdoor games, and just play them all outside. Most cities have a football stadium. You just build them out and go for it. Fans will go for it, minus the fact that it's super cold in Canada and a lot of places right now.
Okay, well, because we're talking about this right now, let's talk about what the season's going to look like right now. So, I mean, I understand they have the 2-week period that they had because of the Olympics now, right? 3-week period, excuse me. So they got the 3 weeks to make up, but they are still canceling more games on a regular basis. Teams are going to have horrid schedules like Vancouver had previous season that just said like what's
19 games in 34 days.
It's just like, come on, like players are going to get injured. That's what I'm worried about too. And then it's going to affect the standings. There could be teams missing the playoffs. Are they even going to get the games in? So what are a couple options are you thinking here? Or I mean, obviously we know there's the shortened season. We know that they could run into a bubble. Could we even have a change where we go back and the divisions get realigned in mid-season back to last year, and Canada finishes their season in the North Division somehow? I don't know.
It's hard to say. I definitely would love that. I'm sure all Canadians loved the all-Canadian division last season. I mean, you know, I'm sure the NHL is looking at all avenues and opportunities and seeing what's available. Again, maybe all the Canadian teams go play on the road for the remainder, at least the next little bit, because, you know, you're dealing with the Canadian provincial and federal governments, which all determine what the rules are within their borders for what is acceptable and what is allowed with COVID rules, right? So it may differ. I mean, there was recently talks about moving Winnipeg games to Saskatchewan. It didn't pan out, but it was an idea, you know, to move to Sasktel, right? And again, smaller venue, so you're not bringing in as much revenue.
But it's better to bring in some revenue than no revenue.
It's true. It's true. I think you need to do it maybe at 50% capacity, you know, and still let fans in. You got to do something because you can't keep doing this, and players got to just play it out. You know, like it's getting a little silly.
Yeah, what you really hope, you know, like, and let's just throw some numbers around there. It's the 10-day isolation. You know, if you can make it, they're asymptomatic, it's a 5-day isolation plus so many tests. If they're symptomatic, even mild, they'll keep the current standard. If they could do something with that, I know they can't do anything with the international travel, and that's a part of the problem, because if a Canadian team is in the States, they can't get back, and they might be having to charter them to a border city and then have to drive across the border and then fly back. By the way, what a joke. You can actually drive back across, but you can't fly back across. Interesting. Okay, yeah. I digress. That's my rant for the week. So that's the rant of the week for Evans, this little minor thing on COVID and the NHL bylaws on it.
Well, speaking of arenas and things going on, there's some news out of Arizona happening.
Woo! That was your last rant?
As well as Calgary, but start with Arizona.
So go back to episode 15, everyone. By the way, like, follow, share, subscribe. We're on YouTube also tonight here at 9 o'clock every Wednesday night, as well as Facebook Live. But go back to our last episode. You can follow it down low in our Facebook and or in our YouTube. But he rants. My partner here rants about the Coyotes in Arizona. I want to call them the Phoenix Coyotes still. But we're going back there again to talk a little bit. And part of it is because of what you ranted about has caused a bit of a stir. And they're not out of the news again. Let's go.
Nope. So it seems there's reporting coming out of Arizona that the Tempe deal that they were hoping to get signed, so not even started on the building, isn't really in play, and that some of the councilmen or members aren't able to agree to a consensus of having them in there, especially given the negative press that they're getting from Glendale and the bills and taxes not being paid, you know, the human error, as I said it. So, you know, they're looking on all avenues.
So two sources are saying 3 yes votes, 2 no votes, and right now there's 2 votes that are undecided, and they're leaning towards no because of the tax situation and the payment of the bills.
Yes. And so the Arizona organization is looking potentially on some indigenous land nearby to potentially have a deal there to build a stadium to support the team in that time. Now, again, this is like 2 to 3 years away minimum if they want to get this up and running. But in the interim, what is Arizona going to do? And I know Gary Bettman is going to live and die by the sword for the Arizona Coyotes, but in my mind, they need to move. Now, maybe it's Houston or Kansas City, but it's got to change.
Okay, let's go to I think we need to take a moment and seriously talk about some other places. This is because it's serious, and I'll tell you why. I want to add something to what Pawel just mentioned here. By the way, the place they're looking at is called the Salt River. Now, excuse me if I don't pronounce this right. It's called the Pima Mercopa Indian Community. It's right on the border of Tempe, by the way, is where they're looking, right on the border. So this could cause problems if they built, and they're not sure on a backer for the finances, because it's a $1.7 billion arena and entertainment district they want to build. Not as ideal if they're not in downtown Tempe, but because it's on the border, they would have all the problems that come and no revenue, Tempe. So it puts a little pressure on Tempe by them talking about moving out there. And there's a little bit of a rumor that they paid the indigenous community out there a little bit of money to help them in these negotiations. Just a rumor. I'm not saying it's true, but who's going to trust the Coyotes franchise with everything that's happened? Now, they're also, so Goldwater, it was a group that came in and helped on making some decisions with Glendale previously when there was a discrepancy of payments and leases and stuff. There is some good negotiations talking off and outside of the boardrooms. However, Goldwater could get involved just like they did previously with Glendale. And I'm hearing from a bunch of people like Craig Morgan, who reports exclusively with them, and he's hearing from many sources that they are now basically one more negative report outside of this, one more thing coming in with finances or something with the team. This would be the nail in the coffin, and there is nothing Bettman can do when there's no place there. So one other point about if they're in Tempe, the problem is going to be there will be direct competition with the arena for, I think it's called Footprint Center now, for the downtown arena where the Phoenix Suns play. And that means competition for dollars to bring in concerts and all those things. They don't want them.
No.
So I think we need to observe. Can we take 2-3 minutes? Let's just talk about some real probability locations, because I think they're moving within 2 to 3 years max.
I think so too. But yeah,
okay.
Go ahead. Oh, do you want me to?
Okay, you just name some. Let's talk about the validity. So if you're following along, just put in the comments here. Agree or disagree with us if you got a different place. Okay, you go first. You pick a town, and then I'll pick the next one or a city. Houston. Okay, why Houston?
They have an arena already pre-made that's ready to go. It creates competition. You stay in the West, so you're not moving a team to the East, which makes it easier. I know they've talked about that in Quebec, but then you have more teams on the East than you have on the West. You have a big market. You have a big hub. Houston is a big hub, a tech town, very large, can support a team. There's a lot of fans in Texas that would love to see hockey. Again, that rivalry with Dallas would be phenomenal. And it would just be exciting, right?
Yeah. I was going to say Houston, I think, is the number one because of the size of the market. Also, just so you guys know, the owner of the Houston Rockets, Tillman Fertitta, I can't remember how to he has expressed the interest. So when you have an NBA team, so they would share that same arena. That's what makes it perfect for them. He has a dream to have an NHL team. And when you're an NBA owner and you have that much value already built up and you've run a successful franchise, I think they're the front runner straight up. So, okay, the next town, Kansas City. Woo, baby. Okay, I don't know why we're agreeing on stuff tonight here. This is ridiculous. Okay, Kansas City. Bring back the Scouts, baby. Now, some of you are too young to know the difference. They were an NHL team, the Kansas City Scouts. Name them something different. I don't really care. But Kansas City had their arena built quite a while ago. They'd have to revamp things. They were ready. And frankly, they should have gotten expansion before Nashville and some others back in the day. And they didn't. And Kansas City was one of the locations Mario Lemieux was looking to move the Penguins to when they were going into bankruptcy. Back in the day. Houston was also talked about, but Kansas City, do you got another place?
I would say low-key Hamilton.
Hamilton. They'd have to rebuild that arena, though. I mean, it's too old. It's older than the Saddle Dome Flame fans.
Well, yeah, but, you can still make it work. Don't throw shade at Calgary.
You can make it work. I guess you have a temporary building to play in while you build, right? But you're going to have to fight with the Toronto Maple Leafs, who don't. I mean, they want the dollars that they're building out of that whole area, right? I mean, that'd be the downside for market share. But okay, what about Portland? A lot of people have talked about their smaller center. More in the case of like Winnipeg, or even slightly smaller, they'd probably be around 400,000 or 500,000, but they have a larger area. And a lot of Seattle people are never going to get to a Krakens game, and you drive 3 hours, and I'm not sure exactly. Correct me if you're from that area of Oregon. You're very close. I think within 3 hours. Portland has always supported junior hockey. Yeah. They've done great. Even Portland has their own NBA team.
Yes, they did, the Trailblazers.
I mean, and it stays in the West.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the long shot really quick. Long shot, Quebec City.
Quebec City.
Okay, how do you do this? We know if it moves east, that's going to make things. Who moves over? That's the only way it happens, right? Who moves over? So, guys, write in the comments who could move over from the east, move them west, Does Detroit come back to the West? I know Detroit wanted to be in the East for so long, but it just feels weird, man. I feel like Detroit should they should be with us.
100%. Now, just like you said, Hamilton for Toronto, I don't know how well the market would connect with Montreal, like the Montreal market or that team with Quebec
same thing.
Back. I think that animosity and money that would challenge it. Now, don't get me wrong, the stadium's there, the fans are there, the money would be there, but and the rivalry would be insane with the Nordiques back. I'm going to throw a wild one out there. Let me know if I'm off my marker. Memphis.
Ooh, Memphis, Tennessee. Yeah. A nice rivalry with Nashville. Okay, guys, throw that down. So, by the way, people out there right now, you might say this is ludicrous. You're talking about Memphis. You're talking about Portland. Come on. Well, I just want to let you know, years ago, people said that about Las Vegas. They said that about Las Vegas.
I'm one of those people.
And
I was wrong.
So long as you have a good market there, that would already go. So the question would be, we know Nashville has incredible fans over in Smashville. Do they carry over? How many are ticket holders would, and how much interest is there in Memphis right now, even in Nashville team? That would be an interesting one to look into. If not now, maybe in the future because there's not going to be any more expansion over 32 teams. That's too diluted, right? I mean, it would only be relocations, I think, now at this point.
Possibly. I could see there being 34 teams by the end of our time.
Wow.
I really do. But
okay, well, hey, let's get to a couple other things. What else you got on the agenda here?
Well, talking about the other arena, there's been rumblings also about the arena in Calgary, that there was a deal in place. Things were going to go through, but unfortunately things fell apart as the new city council in Calgary and the new mayor have decided to present an additional cost for climate action for the new arena that the Calgary Entertainment Group wanted to build. Now, the Calgary Flames organization has stepped back and said, no, we don't want that. There's a lot of animosity and heated debates, discussions, tensions right now in that market. I think Calgary does need a new arena. A friend of the show and myself were at the arena a few weeks back watching them versus Boston. But they needed a revamped arena, and it will bring a lot of joy. And of course, when you go 3 hours north, you have this beautiful new arena for the Edmonton Oilers. So of course, there's a little bit of envy from the Calgary Flames fans. So don't say the deal is done. Don't say that that market is moving, because that team is solid, has always brought in good revenue. It's a stable market. There's a lot of success there.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think there will be a new arena in Calgary. It's just a matter of what the numbers look like for both sides.
Exactly. And so I just want to reiterate on December 22nd. So on December 22nd, the Calgary Flames pledge to keep the team in the Scotiabank Saddledome after the current lease runs out. So they haven't threatened. So anyone making up stories that they're moving back to Atlanta or anywhere into the South, they are not going anywhere. They will not make that money. Bettman will be involved in this because there's money that the Calgary Flames make that goes to help other teams in the far South, like Florida.
Yeah.
I hate to say that, right? But it's true. I mean, he's going to keep teams that keep them in the market, make them look big, like Phoenix. And as much as he works for them, he will work for Calgary. Calgary is a good base for that. And let's face it, a lot of this, I think this is politicking, Pawel. Back and forth, there was stuff that happened with Cates and the city of Edmonton. And no matter which side you take on this, I think this was a way for them to come in, add a few more dollars, change a bit of the deal, saying this was missed, and the Flames are miffed at this, and they're going to find a way to pay that money, but not pay that money, if you know what I mean. That's my take on this.
I just laugh at, Calgary overpaying for certain players in the past, which would have equated to 60 million or more, but they're drawing the line on this, so You know, they're willing to take on Lucic's contract for $6 million, but they're not willing to put in 16 for a new arena.
Oh, let me correct you. They're paying him 5.75. The other money,
Yeah, okay.
Edmonton is still paying with the player that's not on their team, and the player is gone, and they're going to be paying extra money for that guy for the years. I'm going to say, by the way, I want to throw this in there because you brought Milan Lucic up. Right. That player is playing awesome.
Yes.
I mean, they have found a role. Now, if only Edmonton had figured out how to just keep him and let him play the third, fourth line, they would have done much better than trying to go with the James Neal route, which, by the way, I was a believer in at the first year. I thought this was a good deal. In the end, Calgary, hate to tell you, Edmonton, but Calgary outsmarted you on this deal. Okay.
100%. And James Neal was just recently on waivers and cleared, so out of St. Louis. So
I feel bad, man. I love James as a player, especially in his Dallas days.
He's the real deal. So, speaking of players, the trade deadline's coming up, and there's been rumblings about some more players that are going to be on the market. So out of Dallas, there's been some talks about John Klingberg requesting a trade. Now, more specifically, is that there was talks with a trade extension. He's getting older. They signed Miro Heiskanen to that big deal. I think it was 8x8, if I recall. We reported on it.
Yeah.
And they signed a few other guys, and they just felt like maybe John Klingberg isn't in the books. He's older, and they're looking to the young to the future. You know, Jake Ottinger, Miro Heiskanen, and some of their other young guys. Will John Klingberg be traded? I don't know. It depends. They're still fighting for a playoff spot, so Dallas naturally doesn't want to get rid of them. You know, they've been up and down. They've dealt with their own things, but they were just at the Stanley Cup Finals 2 years ago, so, you know, they have a good core there.
Yeah.
You know, Ben Bishop retired, so there's some stuff there. There's some expiring contracts that are happening. Who's going to pay for that? Because he wants 8x8, right?
Yeah. So okay. So this is the interesting part about this. Is this a negotiation ploy that we just get this out there so that we can pressure? Because he did address the rumor about requesting a trade, and he says, I don't think that's entirely true when he was talking about Jim Nill, who's the general manager. This is what he says. It's not like I've been going out there and asking, I want to get traded, is what he's saying, or something. He goes, it's something that we have been dealing with, this negotiation, and it's stuff like that, which is telling me, I think this is a way to say, let's get this deal done or trade me at the deadline, because you're not going to be signing me in the off season. And I think if they don't sign him before the trade deadline, he will be traded. I don't think it's going to matter, because they have enough space to sign him to a deal, maybe just a little less than what he wants, but they're going to have to let go of other players then. This is kind of the same thing as Tampa, right? You can't have all these great defensemen. I mean, very seldom.
Yeah, there's two ways to look at this. You can trade him and get picks and prospects for him, you know, something of value, because he's going to fetch you a solid return.
Yeah.
Or you can wait till the end of the season and play through the playoffs with him, because he would be a valuable addition in the playoffs if they were to make it and be
like a rental. Yeah.
Or if they make a deep run in the playoffs, Dallas, and they want to push for another cup contention, they're going to keep him, but then he's going to walk, because he's going to be a UFA at the end of the season, right? So
yeah. So he did say at the end of last season that he wanted to negotiate right away, and he pointed out to other players that had already signed. That's been made known, that because they signed before the season began, and he wanted to do the same. They didn't get it done, and negotiation-wise, it's been basically quiet. Which really, with the way Dallas' season has gone and where they're at, I think he's as good as gone. So you can start picking your teams. He might be one of the top two that are available at the trade deadline coming up.
Yep. And the other defenseman that's been hot on the block, and there's been some very big trades, and we've talked about Arizona already, is Jacob Chikrin. He's a left-handed shot defenseman. And, you know, there's a lot of interest for him. But the asking price is pretty high. I know Arizona's taking calls on him. We'll see if he gets dealt, but it's possible he may, because he's got a good, solid contract for the next 2 years after this, 2 or 3. So, you know, he'd be a good depth defenseman that people can have. He was one of the people who was selected to potentially try out for Team Canada, so he's got some skill. We'll see, but it looks like, Arizona's going to try to get some more picks and hopefully go for the Shane Wright deal.
Yeah, and they were looking like the Jack Eichel kind of what they wanted, kind of the same kind of assets back. Prospect. And it hurt, and they want a current good player though. Like, they're not going to get this in the middle of a season. That's the problem. So they're really going to have to give up for prospects or whatever. This is a fire sale. This is my feeling. I'm just going to state it out. When we talked about the Arizona Coyotes earlier, if they get rid of Chychrun right now, you might as well write off this team as staying in Arizona, because they have really nothing left of star quality. They've worked and they built towards this. They took on Pawel Datsuk's contract in order to pick up him as that draft pick in that spot.
Yeah.
And if you're going to let him go now at this stage, and he's at a good rate, they can get something great for him in the offseason.
Fantastic.
Or are they just going for a bunch of number one picks, right? I want 2 number one picks and a top prospect and another player in this deal. So I think that this is going to tell us really where that team is headed for the future. They cannot let go of that player and still think they're going to have fans in that arena. There's absolutely no way. They're going to lose. They're going to lose season ticket holders.
Well, and they're losing Phil Kessel at the end of the year, whether he gets traded or not, because his contract's up this year. It's a big one, and they have really only like Clayton Keller signed for the next little bit. So I feel for Arizona Coyote fans. Like, they picked up a bunch of contracts from Vancouver that are expiring. Jay Beagle, Louis Eriksson, like, who's going to play there next year? It's going to be all young guns. It's going to be like Buffalo 2.0.
Oh man. Okay, well, we're getting close to the end of our show here. A couple last things. So I'll let you bring something else up. I just got one thing before you bring up our last topic. So talking about bonehead moves, kind of like Arizona does a lot, would you think, Pawel, it's a bonehead move in overtime to pull your goalie when you're playing in overtime?
Not if it pays off.
All right. CSKA Moscow, the coach is Fedorov. He has pulled their goalie successfully in overtime and won both times. They're the first team in history to do it.
Wow.
You think it's a bonehead move. So, and maybe our great friend Patrick Conway can give us a little input in on this in our comment section, or make a posting a little bit later on our site, on our Facebook. Again, like, share, and follow us on Facebook. Definitely weekly, not just our podcast, guys, but actually all our updates all throughout the week. You're going to find great things that we talk. And now we have our Russian writer, CSKA Moscow, follower. I'm hoping he's going to do that for us. Maybe get a little bit more information on why they pulled their goalie. How important were those wins? Maybe that's the reason. It's kind of like, in a tournament when you need more points. Could that be why it was worth it? I don't know. I don't know the background on that.
We'll see. It's definitely a different trend, what you're used to seeing. Now, that being said, in the NHL, you're seeing way more and more coaches pull goalies earlier if a team is down than usually within the last 2 minutes. Now it's usually, 5 minutes or 4 minutes left in the game. So definitely things are changing because the momentum's changing. And if you feel like your team has a chance, then you can put out that extra skater and make it happen. Why not? So.
All right, give us one last thing. We got another minute and a half that we can wrap up this thing.
Oh, last thing. Well, Mark Bergevin has been hired as a senior advisor to Rob Blake out in the LA Kings organization. So he is going to be assisting him with advice. There were some rumblings about him going to Vancouver. That didn't pan out. I know that they're still looking for the GM, as in 3 other markets: Anaheim, Chicago, and Vancouver, and Montreal, of course. So he's being brought on. Now, that being said, could he become the next GM for the LA Kings? It's possible. Rob Blake's contract is up. Maybe this is kind of like a little bit of a healthy competition, or he's just being brought in to be trained and molded into becoming the next GM once Rob Blake maybe is done or moving away.
So do we know, did Rob Blake bring him in, or did the president of operations, whoever that is?
I think the president of operations brought him in.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, now guys, help us out here. If you know any information, is there a connection? Does Mark have a connection to the LA Kings? I haven't done any background study on this. This was I just saw actually just a couple days ago this news. I haven't followed up on it. Maybe let us know. It's what do you think is going to happen? You think that he is the next GM?
I think he'll stick around as an advisor, and I think Rob Blake will get an extension just because of how well he's done with developing young talent and that team in LA. I think that team is up and coming, and I could see them competing for a playoff spot next year. Just how good and how many bodies they have out there, right? They've been doing well.
Well, speaking of an extension, I think that with how well you have done on our show, I think that I should sign you to an extension as my co-host and keep you on for even double the money that we've been paying you this year.
I'm going to pull a William Nylander and hold out and go back home to Poland and just wait till you pay me the right amount.
Any last thought here before we wrap?
No, I mean, I'm excited about the new year. There's going to be a lot of storylines, a brand new potential Stanley Cup champion, whether it's the three-peat Tampa Bay or someone completely unknown. There's been some chaos in the NHL. There's a lot of headlines. Keep following us, but I'm excited to keep watching hockey, especially since a lot of games are being canceled. I'm tuning into games that I usually wouldn't, so that's been a bonus.
I was going to say that's exactly what I'm running into. That's my last thought too is, hey, you know what? The good thing is when a lot of teams that you usually watch are not playing, you're checking out what else is out there, who else is playing. And anyway, I'm actually been following a little bit of our buddy and our good friend, Alex Thomas, play-by-play of the Hartford Wolfpack. I've been following a lot more of what they've been doing out there. By the way, you guys got to follow their Hartford Wolfpack's games online. The guy is like, he's NHL. He's NHL material. I'm telling you, the guy can call games well. Way to go, Alex. So check it out. I'll put a link in there for you guys to be able to follow him online and follow the Hartford Wolfpack. That team has been decimated, and they keep setting players up to join the New York Rangers, and they're playing well. So, all right. Well, on behalf of Two Guys and Hockey Talk, in the meantime and in between time,
keep your sticks on the ice. Stay safe. See you guys next time.
Cheers, guys.